This video is tailored to program supervisors, those who might be overseeing a caseload and looking to build content in the platform to be able to run programming for the learners that they're assigned to. The first thing that you want to do when you log in is select your client. As you can see, I've selected my client Matthew Little, and I've already gotten started with building some content for his programming. To create a new program, I'm going to go to Programs on the menu and simply click this blue Add Program button. Now you can see that we have our 5 most common types of programs here at the top of this list. And then if you click more, we do have some other options such as Early Start Denver model or instructions only. You do have a behavior incidence program that you can build one time per learner. Once it's built, you can always go and edit it, but you can't create multiple behavior incidence programs. Let's get started with a skill acquisition program first. This program is our more flexible program in that you can mix and match the types of targets that you are going to have within a single program. And we'll show you some of those options as we get there. So the first thing we're going to do is give our program a name. All right, and then we're on the instructions page here, so we can type our instructions in this box. The next thing that we can do is add an instructional video. So if you have a video model of how to conduct a program, or if you just want to provide a personalized explainer video for this particular learner, you can do that as well. You also have the ability to upload learning materials. So these learning materials could be pictures or PDFs that help support that program. The last thing that we're going to do is add a tag. These may be different for your particular organization, but they will help you filter out your programs when you're looking at your list of programs in your library. And you can also pull in particular programs by their tags into your treatment plans and reports. Speaking of treatment plans and reports, let's go over to the treatment tab next. Here we can specify treatment area if we've set these up. And then we always have the ability to add a baseline and objective. So I'll do so now. As you can see here, in both of these lines, I put learner instead of Matthew's name. When I save this program and it's visible on Matthew's profile, it will replace learner with his name. So it'll say Matthew will label at least 10 colors. And then if I save this to my library, I can then upload it to another learner's profile. It will auto replace it with their name, and I don't have to worry about that PHI getting to the wrong place. The last thing that we have here is program status. I would recommend typically leaving this at active unless you're building a lot of programs in advance, and then you could put it to waiting. Or if this program, you don't want to run it anymore for this particular learner, you can put it on hold, closed, or discontinued. All right, so now let's go to targets. Here we can simply click this blue Add Target button and just start typing. We can type and hit enter to create our targets. The other option is to select this import button. And here, if you already have a list of targets, say in a Word document, a Google spreadsheet, etc., you can actually just copy and paste that list here, and it will auto-create new targets from that list. Perfect. Now, before you can see these targets actually in a session, you need to change the status from waiting to either probe or acquisition. You can do that one at a time, or you can simply select all and set the status of all of them at the same time. You also have the ability to add an SD to your target, and so I can show you what to do or how to do that for this one as an example. All right, and while we're here, I do want to show you some nuances. So next to this blue Add Target button is this Dropbox arrow. And if I select this, I do have the ability to add different types of targets. So by default, these are all discrete trial targets, but if I also wanted to, say, measure the duration that it takes for Matthew to tact 10 targets, I could do that. I could add a rate, or maybe break down a skill further for my learner and do a task analysis or a set of targets. So those are some options that you do have. And if you have an existing target that you need to change the type for, you can simply click these three dots and change the target type accordingly. All right, so the last section is our data recording. Here we can select a mastering workflow. So I'm going to just select one that works for this particular learner. If I do want to adjust anything for this workflow, I can simply select this icon and it will pull up that workflow. And here, if I want to make some changes to any of the numbers that are part of these flows, I can do so. So say perhaps I want to have a higher percentage for mastering accuracy across a different number of sessions, and maybe I want to have a few more trials for this particular learner. I can do that, make any adjustments that I want to, and then select Save. Once I have made any changes, I'll see this triangle next to that workflow, and that means that those changes that I made are reflected for this specific program. However, they're not impacting anyone else who's using that workflow in another program or with another learner. And lastly, we have our prompt level template. So by default, I have this independent prompted no response one, but I can select a different one if I would like to. And these are the options that my therapists see whenever they're tapping on a target for collecting data. Once I've selected those, I can click Save. Now, if I want to, this is optional, but I can add a cover photo to my program. So I can simply type what I'm looking for and hit enter. It will search a database for stock photos, and then I can find what I want, select it, and I'm good to go. Now when I go to Matthew's homepage, I see my new program here. Now, how can somebody run any of these programs? The simple solution to that is by creating a session. Now, as a BCBA, you have permission levels where you can create a session. However, your behavior therapists and RBTs, they will not have the ability to create a session. So you will need to set that up for them. So when they log in, they can easily run these programs that you've created. The easiest way to do that is by selecting this Add All to Session button on the top right of my screen. This will put all of my programs into the session below. So now that I have this little preview of what my session can look like, I can rearrange the order of these by simply clicking and dragging. I can also pin any of these to the top. So perhaps for manding and for behavior frequency that we're looking to reduce, I might want to be able to monitor those regardless of what other program I'm working on. And so pinning those to the top can be a great solution. Once I have the order set up that I prefer, I'll click this blue Schedule Session button. Here I can give my session a name, and I can also specify what days of the week this session typically occurs. Now, You can run this session outside of those scheduled times and days. However, if that time or day passes and no session has been run, you will see an indicator on the session itself that turns red if that time has passed. So that can just be a quick visual cue to you that something typically happens there that hasn't happened. Here you can also add a message to your therapist. This message will pop up at the top of their preparation screen. And then press save. Now you can see I have a daily session at the top of Matthew's profile. I don't need to recreate this again. It will always be there until a supervisor or manager removes the session that's been created. So to make sure that those who need to see the session can see the session, I'll click on these three dots and I can go to visibility. Here I have the option to limit session visibility. By default, as a behavior analyst who created this session, this will be toggled on. However, I can also ensure that my behavior technicians can also see the session. Now, I may not want my parents to actually be able to run and collect data on this particular session, and so I could leave that toggle off, but still enable them to see the history of that session so they can review the data and see their learner's progress there. So that's an option for you there. If you do need to make any adjustments, rearrange the order of your session, or pin certain things to the top again, you can always click this Edit Session button. Now, if you do have data that you need to enter manually, that maybe you took via pen and paper or on another platform, you can always do a manual session entry. This bell allows you to turn on notifications. By default, it's turned off, but you are able to set up custom notifications so you can receive notice if a session was finished, you have a new session note, a file or video was attached to your session, when a target was mastered or reopened. And this will be sent to you in an email as a summary at the end of the day. However, if you want to receive notification of that immediately, you can always turn this toggle on as well.